Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called How Somatic Intelligence Can Release Trauma That's Holding You Back. Tune into your body to reveal and heal what isn't working in your life. My name is Stephen Ninen. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm delighted to be with you here, getting to explore deeper into a really important field that's emerging in the last decades, really around somatic movement, somatic intelligence. And we're going to be here with a real pioneer in this area. Her name is Hen Lisra. She's the founder of the Power of Somatic Intelligence and the Somatic Intelligence Wisdom Academy. And she was highly recommended from friends. She's had very viral TED Talk and a lot of deep intelligence about how we can bring our bodies alive so that we really feel like we're at home, that we're vibrant, and that we're really filled with the life that is our birthright. So, Hen, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, I want to jump in. I'm excited, actually, if you share more of your backstory, too, because I think it's really fascinating with the confluence of different things. And I also want to let people know we are going to have a brand new program with Hen. It's called Heal Yourself from Trauma with Somatic Intelligence, and we'll share more about that towards the end of the hour. So, Hen, let's start with your backstory and what propelled you onto this path, because I think it was just a fascinating story.
Yeah, well, there are people that come and say, for example, oh, wow, I want to be a coach, or that's like something that they dream of doing. My story is a little bit different. It really came from my own trauma and trying to overcome my trauma. I was 11 years old when my mom got mentally sick. She was manic depressive, and it started as a normal life. And then she had a manic depressive episode and life just came crashing down. And growing up next to a mentally ill mom really hurt my full foundation. But everything. I'm talking about unhealthy boundaries, not knowing how to tell what's real and what's not, trust in people. If you can't trust the very person that you're completely codependent on, how can you trust others, love relationships, and so more? So I really went on this quest around the world to try to heal myself. And I tried just about anything, and every specialist and every psychologist and every part of the world, including ultimately getting to the shamans in the Amazons and whatever you can imagine. And no one knew how to heal me. It took 25 years to figure this out. And when I figured it out, it actually was quite simple, but it took the 25 years to get there. And I set to show people how they can do the same, because we have 70% trauma nowadays in adults in the modern world, 70, which is insane. And there's a way to heal that from the body, because trauma is held both in the mind, in the cognitive, and in the body. And most people do talk therapy, for example, which is fantastic in itself. It has a piece to it, but it cannot resolve the full aspect of it. So that was a big chunk of my story that led to becoming an expert. It was just like I was just turning every stone over 25 years and trying everything to heal myself, and found a way to do it. And the second part of this was that I got to Cuba as a result of having at the time a Cuban dance academy. And I was learning in Cuba something through the body that just healed a big part of my trauma. And I was like, what is this thing? What do they have here that we don't have anywhere else? Can I extract it? Would it work with people from anywhere, from any culture? And it took a long time to figure out, like seriously, 15 years of researching this till I really managed to understand what's there, to extract it and turn this into the method that I founded, the 5 elements of somatic intelligence. And it really changes the embodiment of how we're living life, and which changes the results and what's possible for us. So as I combine working with healing the nervous system together with the embodiment work, that really produces phenomenal results where we were collapsing years into months.
Wow, it's quite a story, and thank you for going on that long journey and coming back with valuable insights for all of us. So let's talk a little bit about that foundation of the somatic up approach to healing trauma versus we've kind of started more from the mind down in many ways, healing trauma, and love for you to share some of the foundations of how you start to reclaim that intelligence in our bodies.
So let's start with the fact that our body communicates with us all the time through feelings and sensations. And we have disconnected from our bodies in such a way that we don't even understand the communication anymore or notice the signs. Now, when we really look at things that don't work in our lives, like People don't come and say, hey, well, some people do, but most people don't come and say, hey, I have trauma. This happened to me. This is the root cause of it. How can I heal that? Most people come and they say, for example, relationships don't work, or they go, I'm stuck in my career, or my confidence where it doesn't need to be, right? We're talking about the symptoms that we're saying, what's not working in my life. When you look at an area in your life that something's not working and you really dig deeper, you'll find usually a trauma. And when I say trauma, it's important to remember that some people think trauma is this, like you lose your leg, someone has to die. But trauma, for example, is your parents not being available to you emotionally and you feel abandoned. And as a result of not being received, we see this a lot, for example, when working with women, that a lot of women struggle with relationships and they say, I'm constantly choosing unavailable men. And then you go like, okay, what happened in your childhood? And they start to say, well, my father was never available. He always worked. And then my mom got so angry about this. She was super strict and she was just criticizing me or saying bad things to me. And, that broke my confidence. And then you're seeing that both parents were not available emotionally to just love the person. So they're always going towards people that are not receiving them. So as the result of this, when we want to take the things that are not working in our lives, we need to kind of find a root cause. And at the root cause, if we heal that from the body, then we can release the very things that's causing the symptom to come out in our life.
So how did the 5 elements in your system then work together?
So when we're talking about the 5 elements of somatic intelligence, we have elegance, intention, tempo, sabrosura, and mystery. Now, I want to make sure that people understand that when I'm talking about somatic intelligence, the wisdom of our body, intelligence, wisdom, somatic comes from the word soma, body. So the wisdom in our body, I'm usually using 2 methods. One is my method that I'm going to explain in a second. And the other one is witnessing, is basically the felt experience that we use to heal the body by connecting a transformational coach's body to the person that they're helping to heal. And then we're able to bring to the surface trapped emotions and then show them how to process them again and release them. When we have trauma, these emotions lock up. We lock up areas to protect our nervous system from burning up. And we're never able, well, I shouldn't say never, but typically we're not able to go back there by ourselves and open that again. Now, that's one aspect where we're working with the emotions and feelings to release those. The other one is the method that you're seeing here, which is basically the 5 elements. The 5 elements is the embodiment of our true nature. So when we're born into the world, we're coming already embodied perfectly with the 5 elements. And it's like, all we got to do is get everybody else in the world out of the way so that we don't destroy this. But what happens in reality is that as you see these, each one of them has a dial. And you can see that there's a benefit attached to each one of them. So you can see that elegance is connected to your confidence and self-worth, and the intention to your meaning and drive, and tempo to enjoyment and vitality, and sabrosura is connected to your love and self-love, and the mystery is connected to your playfulness. So when they're in their optimal, we're in our true nature. Usually when you look at people and you start to do an analysis, like an assessment of where they're at, you'll see that these dials that have a plus and minus are turned below their optimal. So what is the optimal? We can say, well, optimal, like, is there like an optimal, like a optimal in the world? No, it's subjective to us. So if you look, you'll see that there are 3 things that affect us. So when we're talking about the optimal, there's no ultimate optimal that's for everybody. It's a subjective thing. And it's affected by 3 things. First of all, our life stage. So for example, am I in my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? Am I going right now to college for the first time? Am I divorcing with 3 kids? Am I in a breakdown? I'm going to meet these elements quite differently based on my life stage. The second one is our cultural identity. So let's generalize this for a minute. Can we say, for example, that in a place like Brazil, mystery is really simple to embody, right? It's a culture that's more embodied in their seduction and in their sexuality. So mystery is really easy. And again, I'm generalizing this on purpose for a minute. Now, if we go to elegance, we might say, well, you know what, like England is a culture that's more embodied in its elegance. Maybe mystery, not so much their element that's really strong. We can look at cultures, we can look at people. Now, if we bring the self-identity in, now I've got my own personality, how much love I got at home, am I an introvert, extrovert, and so on. So even just thinking about this, we took this generalization of the culture. Now let's say I'm living in England. Elegance is really the element that feels very comfortable in the culture. But now my parents are from Brazil, and in our house, there's a lot of mystery. So you can see how that kind of affects those elements for me. So there's how we were born, there's what happened and how it impacted us, and then there's the whole environment that we're in. So when I'm working on one hand on releasing the very things that are stuck emotionally in our body. And at the same time, I'm changing the embodiment, because if we take those dials and we put them into the optimal, what would come to the surface immediately is anything that's trapped that needs healing, and then I can come with the other method and heal it and release that from the body.
Very novel framework, and I think it's interesting to have the cultural element where it's different cultures have brought more of this in. So how would elegance be a quality that we would help to use to unlock trauma? Like maybe if you can dive into one specific way that would kind of help us to understand.
Love the question. So absolutely, we want to understand a little bit better what these elements do for us. What's the outcome of it? So I'm just going to give you an example. So let's say that my self-worth or my confidence are not where they need to be. You'll see the person sitting like this, and they're dropped in their chest, and they're almost protecting themselves, and their self-worth is not so high. And it's like, you can see that if I'm sitting and I'm talking to you like this, it feels a certain way. I'm projecting something a certain way, right? If I'm putting elegance into the body, which means that I'm adding, like, I'm basically making myself very elegant by pulling up every vertebra and opening up my chest. Now I'm not just projecting something different, it's actually also a power pose. And we already know from research that's been done that a power pose changes our confidence level in just 2 minutes. So each one of these has benefits. I can tempo, for example, there's a way to add a certain bounce to the body, and that releases endorphins and gets you to a natural high within 5 minutes. So we can get to replenish energy. So each one of these elements, these somatic elements, when we start to embody them, brings us back to releasing certain things, or getting us to a place where there's a benefit to how we're living life, the quality of our lives, how we feel about ourselves, so we can actually go after the life that we truly want.
I was intrigued about what you're saying about mystery, since I haven't really thought of that as an aspect of somatic intelligence, but the way you're saying where there's more of a playfulness, there's a comfort with erotic qualities that certain cultures have. And so how is that also sort of helping us to sort of embody in a more full spectrum way?
Well, here's the interesting thing that not a lot of people think about. When people think about seduction, they always think about the misconceptions and the aspect of seduction of maybe manipulating somebody, or they're thinking only about sexuality. But at the core of seduction, to be really able to feel that in your body, first and foremost for yourself, there has to be really high self-worth. You really got to know what your worth is to be able to attract to you. And that could be a sexual seduction where you're attracting, whether it's in your relationship or attracting someone to you. But that could also be in business. If you're trying to draw sales in your business, your self-worth has to be really high, and you got to be magnetic. And that's mystery. That is the embodiment. That magnetism, that charisma, that charm that you're using to attract to you is seduction. It's just not the way we always view seduction. And for that, we really need to know what we are worth. We got to have that confidence to be able to embody that and bring that out. So it actually links beautifully into success in all areas of your life.
So what might be a practice that could open that quality up, like open more of a sense of mystery and playfulness and seduction in our body?
A lot of it has to do with intentions. And when we embody an intention, it's almost like I'm saying something to myself, and then I speak it through the body. So somatics are about speaking through the body, and we don't need so much of speaking and words, which we now tend to go more to. It's more our presence and how we show up. So for example, if we take the Spanish sentence, te gusta. Te gusta is, do you like it? And we say it at the beginning in a seductive way, then it could be, te gusta, te gusta. And then later on, that could turn into, so I'm saying it with the body. So what I'm really saying is, and this is what I'm saying, it's about high self-worth. So nobody takes it to a vulgar place from, seeing this practice to understand the depth of it. When I'm saying te gusta, I'm not saying, do you like this like meat? I'm saying, do you like everything that I am and I stand for and how great this is? And it comes from that self-worth where I'm going like, te gusta.
Love that. I also want to dive into a little sabrosura, since that's a newer term, I think, for most people, and it might be useful to dive into that one a little bit, and what aspect of somatic intelligence you're getting at there, and how do we open that more?
Oh, the sabrosura is the most magnificent one of the 5 elements, in my opinion. So the sabrosura, the feminine one, is like, you can see that there's something so magnetizing, and it moves a little bit different for men and women. I'm moving, like a woman. But the same thing exists for men. So it's the divine feminine energy in our body. And we have a version for men and a version for women, a masculine and a feminine version. And it is really, when you feel it in your body and you really embody it, you really feel your uniqueness, your beauty, your how incredible you are. It's like you fall into this place where you just feel so divine. You feel like a god or a goddess in that sense, in the beautiful way, not in the sense of ego. And it's really tapping into your self-love in the body, because it also releases endorphins and oxytocin in the body, and it gets you to a place that you feel really great about yourself. And what is really incredible about the sabrosura, which comes from the word sabor, which is flavor. So the sabrosura is like, it would be flavorness or something if it was in English, because there's no word for it really. And it's really incredible for healing, and especially healing trauma, because a lot of the wounding has to do with not receiving the divine energy from the mother or the father where there's wounding. And I'm going to touch for a minute just the mother, but it's not because it's not there with the father either. Mothers, when they love us and they're not wounded, have this tendency to like give this amazing affection and hold you in this care and love. When someone is coming and they had a good ancestral line and what came through from the grandparents to the parents to them, you see, and I meet people like that, even though there's not many of them in the world. There's maybe the 30%, maybe even less today. But when you're really feeling that, it's quite incredible. My grandma was like that. While my mom got mentally sick, my grandma truly embodied the feminine divine and was able to give that to me through the body. She would hug me, and her body was fat and comfortable, and she was so comfortable in her body, and she just loved me in an unconditional somatic way that I just felt so held. I was so hurt by my mom's mental illness, and I really feel like my grandma is the one that saved me and gave me a lot of these wisdoms to begin with, that later on when I learned different parts, I was like, wait, that reminds me of my grandma. This is what she did with me intuitively. So when we're able to tap into the sabrosura and bring it into our healing process, we're first of all bringing parts that we didn't receive, and we're activating this in the body. It's important to know that we're born with this in the body. I'm not giving you something that you don't have. A baby that comes into the world is already like so cute and full of love and just wants to be cuddled, and the energy is there. It's what we do to it that shuts it down in the body, and we're activating it again. It's already in the body. It's important to know. So when we're activating that in the body, we're bringing back the parts that we didn't receive to activate. And then we're also bringing this softness. So when we have trauma, we tend to hold, we're so afraid to feel what is there. We're holding, and we're wasting so much energy that after a while you see symptoms. People are getting sick, or you're getting like different symptoms in the body where you're going, why is this happening? Someone I know said, I'm feeling so stressed right now, and I don't want to accept that I have trauma, and I want to believe that I don't. And she said, and my whole side is now kind of hurting and feeling a little paralyzed, and I'm finding it hard to do what I need to do in my life and work and all that. That's a somatic symptom, because there's a trauma in the body that's not being released, and it's like that holding. And then eventually, how much energy does the body have? It has to take it from somewhere, right? So when we bring the sabrosura and we start to bring softness and the feminine divine, and you start to feel that deliciousness in your body of this warmth and being held, it starts to release the things that are stuck, and we bring them again to the surface, and we can release them. If it's okay, I'm going to tell you a tiny little story. It's really interesting because when I went to Cuba, I was studying this for 15 years and trying to unpack this. And no one could explain to me what these things are, not even the names of these elements that it took me about 10 years before I figured out, because it was so obvious to them. They didn't even think of saying that. And I was learning this through dance because I had a dance academy. And later on, I turned it into a method that you don't have to learn to dance to learn this. And there was one time when they got me to dance traditional cha-cha-cha, which is super soft and delicate and vulnerable. And I remember when I started learning the movements, I felt so much pain in my heart, like I couldn't be with it. It was the trauma. And I just said to my teacher, I can't do this. It hurts so much. I can't. And she just guided me to let it move through my body. And I was just terrified. It was so scary to go into this big feeling that felt huge and was so excruciating. And as I was allowing that to come up, I learned two things. One is that it's a smoke screen. The fear comes up because remember this from the memory of a child, and our nervous system was this small and young. And now we're much more evolved and we have more capacity. And it's so scary to go there that it's terrifying. But once you actually move through that, it's just a smoke screen. There's nothing there besides fear. And I've learned little by little to move through that. And the second thing that was so powerful was that when I was able to let that pain come up, it really felt like my whole body went into dots, the whole body of dots of pain, just like all over. And it was almost like I was going through this tunnel, when you have lights and you kind of go, and you're just seeing kind of light every once in a while. And it was just like, oh my God, is this ever going to end? And then eventually I started seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and it was like, oh, you released. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. We can move through that. And a big part of the work that I'm doing is to show people how to move through that so that we can release that. Because if we can go through that and not be so afraid of what we're feeling that's preventing us from feeling this, we actually release it. And that's the beauty of it.
Mm. That's really so beautifully described, and it gives a sense of how the sabrosura can really, as we internalize that. So if somebody grew up, they had some trauma around that, maybe they didn't have like your grandmother figure, how do you start to summon the sabrosura quality for yourself if you didn't get a lot of mirroring or template around that?
Well, you come to people who do. So you cannot give that to yourself by yourself when you had a wounding. That's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Because this is exactly why we're doing the program that we're doing, because there's no way that you're going to be able to receive that by yourself from yourself when you didn't activate that in the body. So if there was nobody in your life, then you need somebody to help you. Now, I'm not saying that all of it had to do with what we're doing. Some people might go and say, you know what, I'm going to learn belly dancing. That's also good. If there's another way that you can do it, sure. But this is exactly why we're doing this kind of work, because it's extremely hard to go into this by yourself and without any kind of guidance, and to not be scared when the fears come up, when you're feeling excruciating pain in the body, and to allow it to flow. We need somebody to guide us.
Beautiful. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I want to give you a little time to guide us in an exercise that really sort of takes us into the more experiential domain for folks. And I think now would be a perfect time for that.
Amazing. So I'm going to do a little attunement practice. And this attunement practice, the main aim that we want to get to is to start paying attention more to our feelings and sensations in the body, and kind of paying attention to what goes on. We are running nowadays so fast. We are disconnected from our bodies, and we're not really paying attention to what goes on. And we're too much in our heads, thinking, to-do list constantly in the head. The energy shoots up. There's a lot of anxiety and stress. And we want to bring back the energy down towards the pelvic area. And we want to learn how to land back into our body and start to pay attention. So that ultimately, that's the base that we're going to use for healing. So we're going to do this to music, and I'm going to invite everyone, and I'm going to do that myself, to close your eyes so that you really allow yourself to kind of sink into that.
So we're going to start by taking a big breath, slow breath through the nose. We're going to go in and then out with a little ah, all the way to the base. Aha. Don't go full. Full keeps it here up in the anxiety. We're going to go ah. We're going to take another breath in. In, again out. And we're just going to pay attention for a minute to the sensations in the body. And just notice, are you feeling any extraction, contraction, sorry. Are you feeling heat, cold, tingling, pain, numbness? Just pay attention to the sensations in your body. And now see if you can just sense your feet on the ground. And see if you can feel your shin, thighs, your butt on your seat. And see if you can feel your whole lower body at the same time. And if you can, great. And if you cannot, also great. Just allowing what is there to be there and paying attention. We're going to take another breath through the nose. In out through the mouth. Allowing the energy to drop towards the base, towards the pelvic area. And this time, we're going to pay attention to our feelings. Are you feeling sad? Angry? Are you feeling pain? Shame? Fear? Joy? Numbness? Calmness? Just notice what is present for you. And notice if it's one feeling or if it's moving from one to the other, and just allow it. Whatever is there to be there. We're going to take another breath in. And out through the mouth with an ah to the base. Allowing for more grounding. And this time, we're going to witness our mind. We're going to try and witness our mind. And by witness, I mean we're going to try and observe the running thoughts from the outside without getting sucked into them, into the stories. Just letting them run almost like frames in front of us that are just running and we're not being attached to them. And really notice the velocity, the intensity, the quantity of the thoughts, and how we need to slow down the body so much more to be able to feel and sense versus our running mind. We're going to take another breath in through the nose. And now slow through the mouth to the base. And this time, we're going to listen to the sound around us. And that can be the music that we're hearing. That might be some sounds inside the house or apartment. That might be also sounds outside of the street. We're just going to pay attention for a second to the sounds. Let that in. And while we're paying attention to the sounds, we want to pay attention to what we're feeling right now at the same time. Our feelings and sensation. And be 100% present outside with what you're hearing and potentially also feeling. And also 100% inside, present with your own feelings and sensation. And see if you can hold both at the same time. And if you can be in your body at the same time. Or just paying attention. In a minute, we're going to open our eyes. But before we do that, you want to keep that 100% present on the outside and on the inside. As you open your eyes, so at your own pace, in your own time. When you feel ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the now.
Thank you. That was a beautiful invitation to deepen these beautiful bodies we have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you want to share how that can be a foundation for starting to explore and open and release certain trauma patterns to sort of like, and to do that in a way that's gentle and works with the body's rhythms.
Yeah, so the first thing is that we need to always be present inside and outside with what is going on. The world is coming towards us and there's things that are happening and we need to be able to be present, feel, sense. At the same time, we need to see what goes on inside us. So we want to make sure that's the first thing. It's the relational space, because what happens a lot of the time is that we just completely leave our primary home, our body, and we disconnect. There's so much going on that we cannot be with. So what we do is almost like we have left the body. The body is there and we're next to it. We're disconnected from it. The deepest and most profound part of healing is coming back into the body and being able to feel again and sense. We are disconnected. We are living so much in our heads and not feeling and sensing. And in order to release that, we have to come back to what is uncomfortable to be with and to be able to learn how to process and release. The other thing is that this is really impacting our quality of our relationships, because while we're disconnected and we're not able to feel certain things in ourselves, we're also not present with people. So to be present with someone is to be able to feel them and feel us at the same time. That's what real deep relational space is. But if I'm now so afraid to feel what I'm going because there's excruciating pain from what I've gone through and I just don't want to feel it. And so one, I'm not here to begin with. I'm not home. I'm not in my body. And second is that as soon as I come in front of someone and they start to bring their pain out and it touches my pain out, obviously I want to shut them down because I'm trying to avoid that in me. Then how can I be with you? So the journey through the body, through the feelings and the sensations, and you know, I love that you said that, like that gentle thing, that gentleness is asked about, that's the sabrosura, right? So the sabrosura is not just the movements. The sabrosura is that gentleness, that's the divine feminine. You're starting to feel it now in what I guided it, because I bring a lot of sabrosura when I do that. I channel my grandma.
Love that. One thing I would just want to, in terms of like the unfolding of a trauma release over time, just to like, just maybe paint the picture of like how we can take that journey and sort of work with these different qualities and let the body sort of unravel things in its own kind of unique way.
So if we were able to really come back home to the body, really that's what it is. It's coming back home. That's what everybody wants. Everybody that I'm working with, they're coming back home to themselves. And in some way, they've lost parts of themselves. They got fragmented and certain parts left. And they're trying to bring those parts back. If we were able to land into this and just feel it all, we would just release and we would just be fine. The tricky part is coming back to that and being able to move through that. So for example, if I'll actually go not towards the just working with the emotions, but let's talk about the sabrosura specifically. I remember when one client, and there's many different stories, but let me take one, a client that I was working with, and I was using touch to make her feel the divine energy in the body and kind of flooding her body with the feeling of the sabrosura. And she burst into tears and she said, "What is that? What am I feeling right now?" And I said, "You're feeling the divine feminine in your body." She said, "Am I ever going to feel it again?" And she just burst into like a river of tears. Her mother could not accept her. It was kind of a situation where the father forced this, that he wanted to have a child and she didn't, and she accepted doing it, but didn't really want to do it. So she rejected her. So she never got love from her mother. So that sabrosura was never transferred on from the generations into her body. And then when she started feeling that and feeling what self-love is and to embody that, it was so hard because on one hand, it felt so good. And at the same time, you have to go through the grief and the pain of what you lost. You lost something. You lost a whole decade or maybe two of your life or maybe more. And in order to heal the body, we have to pass through the anger. We have to move through the grief. We have to be like, for me to heal my body, I had to really allow myself for the first time to feel anger towards my mom. Ever since I was a young kid, I was told it's not her fault. She's mentally ill. And we all get it in the head. It's not her fault. She's mentally ill. She has no capacity for this. But bottom line, someone hurt me and damaged me so much that it took me 2.5 decades to resolve this. And I had to go through the anger, not anger in the sense of taking it out or going into victimhood or now living out of anger and taking it out on everybody, but I had to allow my body for the first time to get out of that shaming of it's not her fault and to allow myself to feel that anger. I was angry for like a month. I disconnected from her because it wasn't her fault that I needed to pass through that. And I couldn't speak to her. I was in rage, just rage, till I released that anger from my body and that healed that part. So we need to go through the grief. We need to go through the anger. And what we're doing this, a lot of people, because they don't know how to release it, if they try to go in and they feel and it's just excruciating pain or rage and it just repeats, they go like, I don't want to feel it. Because if your end result is that I'm going to have to feel it for the rest of my life, then I'd rather disembody and I'd rather not be in my body. But if you can learn how to release it from your body, that journey that's so hard to move through that is worth it for releasing. And that's basically where the magic is.
That makes so much sense. Well, there's so much wisdom in what you're sharing, Hen, and I just think it's such a rich, deep system, and it's unique that you're coming at this not just from a kind of a psycho-spiritual lens, but like the dance and embodiment and cultural lens as well, which is, I think, really unique. I haven't really seen or heard anybody integrate these different flavors and qualities from different cultures as well in the way that you have. So we're really excited to go deeper and offer a full program with you. So I think now would be a great time to talk about that. The program that Hen is going to be teaching is called Heal Yourself from Trauma with Somatic Intelligence, and really builds upon her system and gives you a toolkit to do this deep work that's about bringing a different quality of presence, aliveness into your life, and really being able to release those things in a very step-by-step, gradual way that leads to lasting results and freedom from traumas. So you can find this program laid out in detail at somatichealingintelligence.com, healingintelligence.com. It's a 7-week program. There are no prerequisites, and it really is just if you feel that there's something sparked, or that you're intuitively guided, that you're leaning in, that you feel there's the freshness in what Hen is sharing that is speaking to you, then you're warmly welcome to join. And so, Hen, I'd love for you to share, first on a high level, like really what kind of changes do you see in people's lives as a result of really taking your system and applying it in their lives?
Well, I think it's that coming back home. So, the journey is to start coming back to the home and home to your body, and then for someone to guide you on how we can do that and start to build for you those steps, because it is so scary. So for me, it's really about, it took me 25 years to get here. When I work with coaching clients, I do that in 3 to 6 months. I want to create, the kind of program that I created with you, programs that allow people to do it in a much faster way. Let's collapse years into months. Let's learn how to do it. Let's learn how to move through this, so that when I hit that wall and I'm so scared to move through that, someone tells me, here, this is what it means. I want to develop for them the emotional resilience to go through that, and also the somatic awareness. So you understand what is going on. When we understand, when something comes up and you don't know what it is, and someone guides you and tells you, hey, this is what it means. And then you've got the courage to move through that because you understand that it's actually something good. It makes all the difference.
Module 1 is called Learn How to Listen to the Wisdom of Your Body for Healing Trauma.
So the first module is going to be about creating the bigger picture. And we need to understand where we're going, what these methods are, what we can do with them, what each thing is before we dive into them. Because when we don't understand, we walk around a little lost. Like a lot of people like to have the bigger picture before we dive into that picture. And that creates a bit of a sense of security and a little bit of a sense of control. I mean, we don't really control life. Life happens, but we have a sense of control when we know more what we're going into and we know what to expect. And I think the most important thing to say, and this is true about the first lesson and all the lessons, is that when you do programs with me, I don't teach you by you sitting and listening to lectures. You got to get on the ground, you got to get on the field, and you got to do the work. So we're going to be doing somatic practices every session, and we're going to learn how to interpret what is going on. So we also understand, so that, when you're working with the body, with somatic intelligence, there's so much information that comes your way when you're doing something. So doing the practice is one thing, but then understanding how to interpret that and what it means, why your body did this and why it's responding like this. There's so much information. When you start to unpack that, which we're going to have in each lesson at least 30 minutes to answer after we do practices, then you start to understand what it means and how to use that in your life. And then the whole thing starts to open up, that you start to have confidence about the journey.
Module 2, reveal what's blocking you and how you can release the underlying trauma so you can succeed in all areas of your life.
So like I said before, when something's not working in our lives, there's a root cause. We're going to do some work to unravel that, to really understand what is not working in your life and find the root cause of that, and also to learn how to bring, with a somatic practice, grounding into your life so that there's more trust, more grounding in your life, and something to reduce the stress and overwhelm, especially not just when we're working the program, also in your life in general.
Module 3, open yourself up to the powerful felt experience so true trauma healing can begin.
So to heal trauma, we need that felt experience. I'm planning on doing a demo so that people can see with somebody that I'm doing that with, how we can heal through that, teach them a little bit themselves on how to connect in such a way. And we're even going to do a practice and try it where you're trying some of these things. And then after you try to be felt, to feel the very thing that causes healing, then we're going to come back and discuss this and see what worked, what didn't, why, so that it's really practical and you can bring it to your life.
Module 4, shifting your embodiment to transform how you live your life with confidence, protection, and solid boundaries.
Right. So we talked before about the divine feminine energy, the sabrosura. When we want to go into the sabrosura, into this gentleness and tenderness and softness, we need to feel a certain sense of protection first. So I'm going to teach the embodiment of elegance and how we create a sense of stronger boundaries and protection, and how we raise our confidence level before we go into the work with the sabrosura, the divine feminine, so that we can start to release some of those things.
Module 5, embodying the divine feminine energy for healing through sensual pleasure, part 1.
So now we start to tap into the sabrosura, into the divine feminine. We're going to do actual exercises that tap you into the sabrosura in your body so that you can feel it. And it's going to start bringing to the surface the things that need to be met, and also the connection between the first method, the felt experience, and the embodiment, and how those two connect for healing trauma.
Module 6, Embodying the Divine Feminine Energy for Healing Through Sensual Pleasure and Returning to a State of Flow, Part 2.
So as you can see, the sabrosura is a huge part of this healing process, and the feminine divine is so important. So I really felt that we needed 2 lessons and not one. It's just not enough. And in the second lesson, we're going to do, again, practices, and we're going to dive into, this time, bringing in touch. And touch can be triggering for some people and can be super healing at the same time. So we want to go explore that. And again, the connection between the 2 methods, every lesson we're going to keep, once we switch from one method to the other, we're going to constantly look for that connection between the 2 for the greater healing that we're looking for the body.
And finally, Module 7, Experience Joy and Replenish Your Vitality for Greater Healing.
So one of the things that no one is doing when you're looking around at, you said before, wow, this is like a method that I've never heard before. No one's doing it. No, because it's unique in the world. There's nothing like it. I am the founder of the method. And one of the things that I brought into this whole system of somatic intelligence, the 2 methods that we're using, is when we process emotions, when we process trauma, it can be very heavy. Can be heavy for us to be with grief, to be with pain, to be with fear. It's not necessarily that we're always going to the lighter emotions. It can be quite heavy. And bringing joy and learning how to bring vitality is really important. So for example, when I'm working with clients, I'll do processing, and then suddenly go like, they feel kind of heavy, go like, let's do a session that's going to be all joy and vitality. And then suddenly it's go like, oh, it's just so good. So we're going to bring that on purpose as a closing, bringing how to generate vitality and how to bring that joy into your life. And then we're also going to close. We have to have, a chapter close when we're finishing something like that. We cannot just do something, go like, bye-bye. We have to have a closing where we understand and bring that. It's almost like an integration session at the end, where that kind of lands at the end into our body, and we understand what we just did as a whole journey.
Well, it's clearly a very unique and very, very cool program. I mean, I think people are going to be so blessed by getting to receive this distillation of really 30 years of exploration and different cultures, and really integrating different aspects of somatic intelligence than you can find anywhere else. So it's got the psychological and spiritual foundations, but it's got this embodied dance, inquiry into the body element that's very unique. And it's, I think, going to be really powerful for people to get to experience. So again, the whole program is laid out in detail. It's somatichealingintelligence.com, somatichealingintelligence.com. So you get not only the 7 90-minute live sessions with Hen each week, you're going to have time to ask your questions, engage in interactive exercises. As she said, it's not just a lecture, it's really about an embodiment practice that an embodiment journey you're going to go on. You'll also get recordings of every session, video and audio, so you can go back and repeat and review different things. You'll get word-for-word transcripts, as well as weekly exercises you can do at home. There'll be a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, you'll also see a number of extra bonuses to enhance your journey. First of all, there's a 20% discount on the Somatic Intelligence Wisdom Academy annual membership. This is Hen's in-house program that really allows you to go deep, so you can kind of continue your work for a whole year with her. There's also 5 best ways to develop embodied presence. This is a PDF guide for developing embodied presence. Hen, you want to say a little bit more about that?
So basically with the bonuses, what we want to do is we want to deepen more. We want to have a little bit more of an understanding of these different concepts and how we can apply them in our lives. So 5 best ways to develop embodied presence are 5 ways that you can deepen and bring into your life right away. The same as the Somatic Intelligence Wisdom Academy is basically programmed where you learn really how to do all of this. So it just allows you to deepen further and learn how to live it.
It's a great extra bonus, and I want to also draw attention to a special bonus that's available just until today. This is called the Emotional Resilience 4-Question Challenge. It's a video teaching from Hen. Let's hear a little bit more about that one.
Yeah, so when we're going through the journey and we want to heal trauma, we want to be able to reveal quickly the things that are going in our lives and how to move through them. And it's all about somatic awareness. So these 4 questions are really there to help you understand what's not working, the root cause, and what we can do with that, and have quick insights that you can already go like, oh my God, I just realized something for my life. When we have these aha moments, we have an opening that allows us to start acting towards the change that we want.
Beautiful. Well, that's a great extra reason to sign up today, and you get that special bonus on Emotional Resilience 4-question challenge. So there's so much richness and depth in this program, and Hen, I really appreciate just how much you poured your heart and soul into this work. We've kept the investment really accessible to do this journey with Hen. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with 1 payment of $349. The course starts on August 30th and runs Wednesdays at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, transcripts, and community as well. And I particularly encourage you to go to the page and check out some of the testimonials. I love them. It's like when I met Hen, it was like the world turned on. That's such a great testimonial. Just really the amount of new life that can spring forth from your body when you're unraveling the old traumas, opening to these deeper qualities, and really becoming more attuned and playful and open with all the different qualities of who you are. Like a refresher course on topics like resilience, a huge impact on my life and work, tools to move through my emotions in a more grounded and supported way, extraordinary teacher and practitioner of somatic wisdom, beyond grateful. So there's a lot of people whose lives have truly been transformed as a result of Hen's teaching. So you're in great hands, and you're going to have a really powerful opening and healing and liberating experience, I'm quite sure. So again, you can find all the details at somatichealingintelligence.com, somatichealingintelligence.com. So, Hen, we have a few minutes left. It's been really delightful to be with you. Anything that you still have on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering going deeper into this work with you?
You know, I want to share a little story. My mom died of cancer about 1 month before turning 60. And it was a very difficult journey because of her mental illness, you know, through life and through death at the end. And when she died, her life flashed before her eyes, and she really saw everything she happened. And for a moment in time, she had a realization what all of this meant, the mistakes that she made and what she did out of her mental illness. And she was in excruciating pain. She regretted her whole life. I've never in my life felt such excruciating pain in my body, feeling her at the end and regretting her whole life. And when that happened, my heart just ripped open. I was like, whoa, I realized what would happen if we got to the end and we got to look at everything and then we regretted it. And that moment was a decision where I decided to do what I'm doing, like full on and like really go for it. And what I really want to say to people is like, you know, don't waste even a day. Like, are you really living the life that you want? And are you really healed in a way that you're able to go after what you want? Because if not, don't waste even one day sitting there in the fear of meeting this, rather than having the courage to come and say, let me do the work. Let me meet this hands on. Like, let me come and do what it takes to basically clear this so that when I get to the finish line, I'm not going to regret my whole life. And I'm going to say, wow, it was a journey worthwhile. When I look at my life today, I go and I say, I'm proud of the journey. Like, you know, I wouldn't change a thing anymore. So the main thing that I want to say to you is, if I did it, so can you. There is nothing unique about me that's different than any one of you. So if I could learn how to do it, you can learn it too. And I'd really love to show you how to collapse those years into months so that you end up at the end and you're proud of the journey that you did and you don't regret a thing. So I say, let's get started, and I'm waiting for you in the course.
Well, thank you for that warm invitation and the depth of care and dedication behind all your work. So again, all you out there are welcome to join Hen in this beautiful journey of liberation and healing. The course is called Heal Yourself from Trauma with Somatic Intelligence, Integrate the Powerful Elements of Sensual Healing, Vitality, and Confidence. And you can find it in detail at somatichealingintelligence.com, and you'll get that special bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight, which is the Emotional Resilience 4-question challenge video teaching. So thank you so much, Hen, and thank you all for joining. Many blessings.
Thank you so much for having me today.